right, welcome back to another episode of the Karter Cast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. NBA time, Connor. It's basketball. Connor's here. Our annual NBA win totals preseason podcast. I can't wait. I've been waiting for basketball. Our football team, well, Carolina's a good football team. BYU's meh. The Panthers are a dumpster fire. So, like, football's, like, kind of getting a little stale. It's awesome. I love football. I love betting football. I love watching football. But basketball, we're basketball guys, Connor. We know this. Everyone knows this. We're basketball guys. We care about basketball.
I hate to admit this, but I was very excited for football season because when you're in the off season, summer, nothing's going on. You're like, please, football come back, NFL come back. Carolina's pretty good this year, so it's been exciting. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I can't wait for the NBA. Free agency got me excited. The Hornets have been getting me a little excited, which cautious optimism every year. I'm ready, dude. We're basketball guys. You said it. College basketball, NBA, we're back.
Season snuck up, though. Season snuck up. NBA snuck up. Like, it's just all of a sudden you're like, wait, next week, Warriors-Lakers, Tuesday night, TNT?
I feel like it's like that every year, although was it last year or a couple years ago, it started on Halloween, and now it's the week before, so they just keep inching it up a little bit. They're trying to space out the season a little bit more. It does sneak up on you. All of a sudden, it's like week 7 NFL, and you're like, all right, NBA opening night. I'm like, wait,
I can't
what?
Wait.
Yeah,
I love the greatest move the NBA has done, though, is that they start on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
You're like your Monday football, like your Tuesday morning football blues are over. You're like, oh well, what am I gonna do tonight? And you have NBA basketball. You get to watch the Lakers Warriors. You get to watch legit games. And then Wednesday night, whatever crappy team you root for, like the Charlotte Hornets, play on Wednesday night against the Hawks, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like everything's back. And then college basketball's even sneaking up on us.
It's just when there's a clean slate like this, and you go in the season with hope, and it's just brand new, new teams, new guys at the top of the league. It's just so exciting. I don't know. I'm ready, Carter. I'm ready for this. Been waiting for this.
I'm very ready. Let's start off. This episode, if you clicked on it now, you're listening. It's the Eastern Conference. We're going to start in the Eastern Conference. We're going to go by divisions. We're going to do the 3 divisions in the East, close up, and then we'll do a 2-parter, Western Conference. It'll just be part 1, part 2. They'll be posted at the same time. And then we'll close the Western Conference with finals picks, best bets, that whole thing. But we're going to start in the Eastern Conference. We're going to go through. We're going to do over-under win totals, what we like, talk about each team. Let's start off in the Atlantic Division, the Boston Celtics. Their over-under's 54.5. Last season, they went 57-25. The big Drew Holiday trade, everyone talking about it. Kristaps Porzingis is on the Celtics now. No more Marcus Smart in Boston. I'll let you start us off here.
We're starting off hot here. This is one of my favorite plays of the year. I'm going over 54.5 right off the bat. I'm not thinking twice. Genuinely, I think this Boston Celtics team, they have the most talent in the East. I think Drew Holiday is a perfect fit next to Derek White in that backcourt. Whether or not they both start, they will close games together. That's such a defensive force in the backcourt. Jason Tatum, if he can play the 4 the whole year, they can let Al Horford come off the bench, play 15, 20, 25 minutes a night on some nights, rest him for the playoffs. Porzingis holds down that center position. If they can stay healthy, I don't see how they don't win 55 games. I really don't. I got some stats for you. Last year, 2022, first place Milwaukee Bucks, 58 wins. Second place Celtics, 57. Third, 76ers, 54. That's 3 teams that almost hit that win total. 2021, the Heat had 53. Then there was the COVID year. Bucks 56 the year before that. Bucks 60, Raptors 58 the year before that. Rockets 65, Warriors 58 the year before that. So you look at the top of the conferences and these teams, there's always the top of the conference has over 55 wins. And I think the Celtics will be the number 1 seed this year. AKA, they'll get more than 55 wins. I love this over. I think Boston's the team to beat in the East.
I think they are the team to beat in the East. We can get into that bigger discussion when we talk about Milwaukee. Over under 54.5, like I mentioned, and you can, if you're watching on video, you can see the total right below us. I'm over here. You have to. Why are they 2 wins worse? The only argument to say they're 2 wins worse is like, okay, Kristaps is going to get hurt eventually. He's going to miss time. And then the other argument would be they don't care about the regular season as much. But I feel like this is just a team that's always going to play hard in the regular season. They haven't shown that they take off games like Warriors or the Clippers.
I was about to say, their stars play. Tatum's played 74 and 76 the last 2 years. Jaylen Brown has played upper 60s every year. They're not playing 40, 50 games a year like a Gordon Hayward or like the Clippers superstars. These guys play. They care. I think they have a point to prove. They've made the finals twice in the last few years. Once, and then they lost to the Heat in Game 7 last year. I think they have a point to prove. It's kind of that window where it's like, okay, next couple of years, if they don't get over that hump and win a title, what do you do? This team's been together for 6-7 years, this core now. So they've got the pieces. They got Holiday, Porzingis, cleared out Marcus Smart. Joe Mazzulla is one of the biggest question marks for me this year, Carter. Is that coach? Do they listen to that voice in the locker room coaching a superstar-studded team like this? Because last year, it kind of seems like they did everything to not blame him. So there's no more excuses this year. They got rid of Marcus Smart, who he had a problem with, and they replaced him with, I think, people who are better.
I think you're right there. I don't think a lot of Celtics fans are like, this Marcus Smart trade. Celtics won that trade, man. Celtics won that trade. And especially now they bring in Drew Holiday. Like, okay, you don't have Malcolm Brogdon and you don't have Marcus Smart.
Yep.
They just consolidated into one better player in Drew Holiday. He brings the best attributes of both players into one guy.
Yeah, and, the sentiment with Marcus Smart, it sucks. He was a lifelong Celtic before the trade, and I'm sure the fans, loved him and, grit and grind. His best years are behind him. From a pure basketball standpoint, his best years are behind him. I don't see him having a year like he did 2 years ago when he won Defensive Player of the Year.
And I also think that with Marcus Smart, how do I phrase this? It's not a cancer. That's a harsh statement. End of game, you don't want the ball in his hands, and somehow the ball ends up in his hands. Like, watching those Milwaukee games last year, and all of a sudden you're like, why does Grayson Allen have the ball in his hands right here? Why does Chris Middleton or Giannis not have the ball right here? What's happening? And Marcus Smart's that guy. We're like, why do you have the ball here? Stop it, Dion Waiters.
And we're going to get a heavy dose of that on Memphis the first 25 games without Ja. We're going to get a heavy dose of that. But I think the Celtics won that trade. They're my favorite in the East. They're the team to beat. Give me the over.
Okay, so we're both over here. Let's move on. Philadelphia totals 47.5. Last season they went 54-28. The whole James Harden debacle. It's slowly becoming a Kyrie-ish career for James Harden without a title. He's not showing up to practice anymore. He's trying to force his way out. Blah blah blah. What do you think about the 47.5 win total for the 76ers here?
This number, this really puzzled me. This is probably one of the hardest ones I've had to pick throughout all 30 teams. I'm leaning under 47.5, and I generally don't know which way to go, but I don't think if by whatever means Harden said he'll never play another minute in a Sixers uniform. If he does somehow come back, which is still in the cards, I don't think he'll be engaged. I don't think he's going to be trying hard every night. There's going to be those clips where it's like, oh, look at Harden taking this defensive possession off or not running back or turning it over, making a lazy pass. When does Embiid get fed up with that? When is Joel Embiid like, hey, man, we were good last year. We made a run. We should have made the Eastern Conference Finals. They blew it against the Celtics. We can do this again. When does he come out and say that to them? I think either way, Tyrese Maxey's going to play and have a great year. But, man, 48 wins in a conference that's this much better, I don't know if I can get there with them. Not with all the uncertainty. I don't think I'll actually bet either side. But if you're putting a gun to my head, give me the under 47.5.
I agree with you there because I also think a big part of this season, this is going to be a consistent theme with me, like talking about, because it's just what it is in the NBA regular season. Embiid's not going to care about MVP anymore. Now that he got it, I think his campaign and all that stuff's going to die out, and he has to be load managed throughout the year. Like, okay, you miss out on all NBA awards. He already signed his huge deal. That doesn't matter anymore. He just get him rested, have him ready for the playoffs. So therefore, but I also think this team might just be better without James Harden when he inevitably leaves, when Daryl Morey takes a deal.
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know.
I guess it just depends what the haul is.
Yeah, I think that is the first thing. But the second thing is, Carter, you look at their roster construction, it kind of reminds me of the Lakers a couple years ago. Whenever LeBron's like, oh, we're so old, but you're counting us out, like all the vets. The Sixers have these big-name guys on their team, like guys you've seen in a big role. They've been on championship teams. Danny Green, Pat Bev, PJ Tucker, Dwayne Dedmon, Montrezl Harrell. Those are guys that are like, oh, they could play a role off the bench. No, they can't. I think a lot of those guys won't be able to contribute this year.
I also just believe in Nick Nurse. That's like what I also think too is like once you get the headache of Harden gone, because the Raptors went 41-41 last season, and that team wasn't that good. And like this Philadelphia team's way more talented than that Raptors team of last year. And if they buy into Nick Nurse, like they're not as talented without Harden, but I think they just buy in, and it's a better brand of basketball, to be honest.
Well, if they do get a decent haul for James Harden, let's say they get like a Terrence Mann, Norm Powell, and a couple picks, or whatever the package is, I think there's a good chance that you're right. They do buy in, but I don't have faith that Harden situation gets resolved before the season.
I want to bring up this question too, because let's say this does happen. Let's say it's Terrence Mann, Norman Powell. That's what it seems like it's roughly going to be. But Daryl Morey always throws a curveball on us. Let's say it is that. Who's bringing up the ball for this team? Is it Maxey?
It has to be Maxey. He has to transition more to that.
Do you trust
point guard.
Maxey being a point guard? I don't. It seems remember Frank Jackson at Duke, where it's just like, okay, like it's this weird mix. He doesn't really understand how to run an offense, but he's got legit talent. He's athletic. He can shoot the ball. He's a true undersized 2 guard. Not even undersized. He's just not as strong or thick.
Yeah.
But like, maybe he could be fine. But I agree with you. I'm going to lean under here. I tried to combat it, but it's hard to. I'm not going to bet it either, but it's hard to back yourself saying, oh, this team's going to win 48 games without James Harden, getting worse. And I think this could be like become an Embiid drama thing. That's what the biggest domino is. Like the Harden stuff, whatever, that happens. Kyrie, we see it every year. But then how does this affect Embiid? How does this impact his morale with the 76ers? How his long-term views on the team? It seems like he's got one foot out the door, to be honest.
If they start off 12-25 or something ridiculous like that,
why would he play?
You don't think he's going to come out and make some comments or some very shaded comments. And what makes me doesn't feel good about this either, I think they have a better chance of getting over this total without James Harden, because if he's there, it's going to be a constant distraction. They're always going to be looming over his shoulder. Who knows if he's going to play or not? But then if he leaves, you're not going to get a talented enough guy to replace James Harden. So I think either way, they're probably going under this.
I think you're right too. Let's we done on the Knicks?
The Sixers.
On the Knicks there. Or sorry, I'm looking ahead.
Seems like you're already on the next team. There we go.
I am. Yes, that answers our question. New York, the Knicks, 45.5 is their win total. Last season they went 47-35. I had trouble with this one.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me too, because I feel like this is one of those numbers where you don't feel good going either way. But I'll start here, Carter. I'm going over 45.5. I think they get barely over this number. I think Randall's a great regular season guy. He's 2-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Star. Now, who knows, playoff series, all the emotions. He's definitely been ridiculed enough. He's good in the regular season. I think RJ Barrett has a good chance to figure it out a little bit more this year. He's only, 23? So he has a chance to take that next step, I would think, this year. Brunson was an anomaly last season. Nobody thought he'd be that good coming off that 4-year deal he signed with the Knicks. Nobody thought he would be that legit. Does that stay? That's my first question for you. Does Brunson as good as he was last year this year, now that teams have had a year to, scout him, get that film under his belt, is him as the lead guy, does he keep up that level of production this year?
This is the team I had the hardest time on. I don't know. I could see this going one way or the other. I think it all comes down to do they believe in Tibbs still throughout the season, because we've seen teams burn out with Tibbs, and it gets ugly really fast, like what happened in Minnesota, and you're just like, oh gosh, he's got to go. And I hope that doesn't happen. I'm not a Julius Randle fan at all. Maybe a fun fantasy basketball player. He's the fun it's like, hey, it's a Wednesday night, and you're like, kind of like his prop over 3.5 assists or something like that. He's just one of those guys to me. I don't know. I don't want I'll just say under to be different.
Okay.
40. You tell me the Knicks go 44-38. That's not a bad season by any means. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a disappointing season. But 46 wins seems like a lot of wins for me for this team in a good in a good Eastern Conference. I'll just go slightly under, but I don't feel great about it.
I will say the Knicks have a respectable bench unit. Josh Hart, who they got last year midseason, came in, made a huge difference. They got DiVincenzo this year. Hartenstein played well. Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickley, Deuce McBride, whoever they decide to bring off the bench. They've got some depth. There. So, they can fill some holes into the games, whatever they need. I'm under on a few other teams that we'll get to later in the Eastern Conference here. That's kind of why I went over, because I was like, okay, these wins have to go somewhere. I don't think they smash this number. I don't see them anywhere near 50 wins, but I think 46 is a reasonable number. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up right at 45, 46.
Yeah, I think that's right. They're just going to be a tough out every night.
Yeah, I'll lean over though.
Okay, all right, there we go. You're not betting it, are you?
No, not that one. There's a couple of these that are just spot on.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be honest. I'm going to bet one of these in this division. I'll say that. I'll actually bet one of them. Nets 37.5. Brooklyn Nets. Last season they went 45-37. Win totals down 8 wins from last season. Obviously, first half of the season, Kyrie, Kevin Durant really pushed them into the playoff spot, and then we saw how that ended. Are you going over under with the Brooklyn Nets?
This is another tough one. I'm going under 37.5 here, Carter. I'm going under, and here's why. So last year they fought and hold on to the 6th seed after the KD Kyrie debacle, after they both left town. They got Mikal Bridges as their number one option. He put up 27 a game when he got to Brooklyn as the number one option. So he proved he can do that for a third of a season. And they already had that momentum from earlier in the year when KD and Kyrie went on that little tear. Was it December or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't believe Ben Simmons makes a huge difference this year. I think he'll come back and play, and he'll have some moments, but he's not going to be the guy he was. He's not going to be the guy he was. I don't know how Bridges is going to be as number one guy for a full season. I think Bridges is a great player. He's a great defender, but can he be the leading scorer on a competitive team while also guarding the other team's best player for a full 82 games? I don't know. He's durable. He plays. I don't know if I believe in that. I think this is the middle of the road team. I think this is a classic 35-win team. Maybe 10 seed. I was thinking 10, 11 seed. Yeah, right on that line where it's the Brooklyn Nets can make some noise. Mikal Bridges has 35 tonight, but they have 35 wins. So I'm going under.
But what about the Ben Simmons piece of this? He's back. He's working out. He's playing super hard. He's bought in. It's his season.
I hope he does have a bounce back here. I think that would be great for basketball.
He's a fun player to watch. He's a fun player to watch. He can't shoot, but he can pass with the best of them. It's so frustrating, but it's not as frustrating as someone that plays down in New Orleans frustrating, but it is very frustrating. I don't know. Don't bet this if you're in Vegas and you're I'm going to go Nets under win total. Don't bet it because they could be a tough out. They're going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. They're going to be just grit and grind Grizzlies type defense. So I'm all-time stay away on this one. Give me I have a lot of unders. In the Eastern Conference.
You got to find some wins here.
I know. I got to start finding some wins here. Let's go.
Go ahead, Karter.
Let's say they win. Man, I don't think I can screw it. I say they win 38 games. Let's go slide over.
Okay.
I feel horrible about it.
I'm sticking under here. I will say, though, you mentioned it with the defensive lineup. They got Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Claxton, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and
I'm going to be betting some early season Nets unders. Is going to be what I'm looking at.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like. It's going to be those race to 100 wins type game.
Yeah.
Hey, whoever gets to 100 first, you win.
But the thing is with this Nets team, they're going to be able to compete night in, night out. They're going to be tough. They're going to be a tough out for any team.
And they're young.
Yeah, and there could be a night where Bridges goes off for 40 or Cam Johnson hits 7 threes. There's going to be one of those nights every few weeks. So this is going to be one of those teams that it's not going to be a pencil in a W on the schedule for these top-tier teams.
No, and it's going to be oh, crap. Tuesday night, you're why are the Nets only a 2-point underdog to the Milwaukee Bucks? This doesn't make sense. And then everyone's going to be Bucks are free money. And then all of a sudden, Nets come out and win because, like you said, Cam Johnson has 5 threes in the first half.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's spot on. This is going to be a team to stay away from betting against, but there's going to be some fun games. But overall, I don't think they get to 38. So I'm going to lean slight under.
I think we're going to be aligned on this one. It's the Toronto Raptors. Every single year, I think we're the biggest Raptors haters in the world. And then next up, we're probably the biggest Heat haters too. Raptors over under 36.5 last season. They went 41-41. Nick Nurse is no longer there. Fred VanVleet is down in Houston now. I'll start off under. This team, I think there's potential this team could be competing for a first pick in the draft bad.
Really? That bad?
They're going to be a trade deadline team eventually.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Why are you running it back with this team? Why? They're slowly, if they don't make a move soon, they're going to find themselves in the same spot the Chicago Bulls are in, where they're stuck in big contracts and they don't really have ways out because no one really wants, let's say Siakam signs a massive deal or something like that, and you're not going to be able to get out of this. OG Anunoby's been the number one trade piece forever. And you got to move on, tank. Even though this is probably the worst year to tank because the NBA draft is not going to be pretty next year. It's going to be a very bad draft. But I think this could be a really bad team.
I don't see where the offense comes from. I don't see where the points come from.
And I also don't think they have the same elite defensive mentality as the Nets. The defensive talent's just not there as much as a Mikal Bridges and guys like that. And even Ben Simmons when he plays.
I just don't know how they don't sell at the deadline. You mentioned it. Teams are going to be calling about Siakam. They're going to be calling about OG Anunoby. They're going to be calling about Precious Achiuwa. They're going to want to sell at the deadline. And I just don't know if this Raptors team does it. I legitimately think you might be right. They might be competing for a top 5 pick. Scotty Barnes took a step back last year. I mean, hopefully he takes another step forward this year, but he took a step back last year, if we're being honest. Siakam's been in every mock trade that I've seen in the last few weeks. Dennis Schroeder's a fine piece when he's playing 20 minutes a night. They're going to play him as their starting point guard 30, 35 minutes a night. I don't see it with him. I think he's fine. It's like a spark plug guy off the bench. We saw it for the Lakers. As a starting point guard at this stage in his career, he wasn't on a team a few years ago. So I don't see it. He went off in Germany.
Grady Dick.
Yeah, see, I don't see that either. I think he'll be fine, but I don't see where the offense comes from. I don't see where the offense comes from, Karter. I don't know.
Jalen McDaniels?
Gary Trent is going to
I like Gary Trent, but he should be in trades. Gary Trent should be in trades.
That's another guy who was mentioned a lot last year in trades. I just don't see how this team gels together and gets to 37 wins. 37 wins, I mean, if there's like a head-to-head prop where it's them versus the Nets most wins, give me the Nets any day of the week.
Exactly, and I think both could easily go under, and I would take the Nets any day of the week.
Yeah,
because the Nets aren't going to be a trade deadline team, other than maybe getting rid of Ben Simmons at a sell high point. If somehow like he starts out the year hot, and then they're like, okay, we can get a decent haul back for him.
Well, this is literally this is the Nets' first year. This is the Nets' first year of like, okay, we have our core in place. First 4 year of Bridges and Cam Johnson. Like the Raptors are kind of at the tail end. Like they're trying to hold on for dear life with this lineup they used a couple years ago that worked. I don't see it this year. I don't know where the offense comes from. I really genuinely don't think they're going to be good. And you know, we hit it on the head last year, and I think we're spot on again this year, even with the lower total.
Yep. So in the Atlantic Division, we both went over on the Celtics. Love that one. Both went under on the Sixers. Not as hot on that one. Knicks, Nets, we weren't hot on either of those, but you went over. I went under on the Knicks. You went under on the Nets. I went over on the Nets. And then we both went under on the Raptors. I will be betting the Raptors.
I think I will too. And before we move on to another division, I've got two best bets in this division I wanted to go through. First one, Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum MVP, plus 900. I think it's down to maybe plus 750 at certain places. I think they're going to have 60 wins this year. He's going to be the best player on the team. He's not going to have to do as much defensively as he has in the past.
I like this.
He's going to be able to just focus on his game on offense. He's going to lead the team in scoring. They're going to start blowing teams out. And he's right at that prime age where it's like, okay, this is where he hits his peak. Hasn't won it before.
The media hype is going to be all behind him because he hadn't won one before.
I was going to say, hasn't won one before. I think this is the year for him. I think this is my favorite MVP bet by far. I didn't put in a lot of futures for awards last year, but man, Jason Tatum MVP this year, I think this is the year. Second one, I've got Tyrese Maxey, most improved player. This is really a bet if James Harden doesn't come back and Tyrese Maxey fully gets handed the keys, because if James Harden doesn't play, they trade him away. This is Tyrese Maxey's team. He's going to have the ball in his hands every single possession. That was at plus 1,300 when I took it a couple days ago.
Down to 1,100.
So I would go ahead and get that in now. I really think Harden is forcing his way out of here, and I think ultimately he's going to get his way, and he's not going to play in Philly anymore. It's going to be Maxey's team. Whether or not Embiid plays, whatever, Maxey will put up the points, and I think they'll be good enough middle of the pack for him to win this award. So I like Tyrese Maxey most improved and Tatum MVP.
I love those. I will be taking Tyrese Maxey 100%. I think that's a great play. I think that's a fantastic play. He's just gonna be able to lead the offense. He's gonna have the ball in his hands, and he's gonna be able to put up the stats, put up the improvement where he goes, oh, he went from X amount of points times 2 almost. So I love that play. I don't really have any conference division bets or whatever. You can do the division bets. Like the Celtics are minus 240.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it.
There's no point. It's not like the Niners in the NFC West, which is going to be free money.
If you're looking to take like alternate Celtic stuff, I'd bet them 60 wins. It's like plus 250 to get 60 wins, something like that. That'd be the angle I would go.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. Okay, that's the Atlantic Division. Let's do the Central Division. The Central Division, and we're going to start off with the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks, over-under win total 53.5. The big blockbuster Dame Lillard trade. They have their big three in Milwaukee now. It's Lillard, it's Giannis, it's Chris Middleton. Over-under 53.5. Last season went 58-24, and we obviously know what happened in the playoffs last year, losing to the Miami Heat in the first round. Where are you going on the Milwaukee Bucks?
This one wasn't too hard for me. I'm going under 53.5 on the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think they're going to care enough to get to 54 wins. One minor injury to their starting lineup, they don't hit this total. If Giannis or Lillard's out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, they're not hitting 54 wins. Can Middleton stay healthy? I don't know. Big question mark there. Where's the depth? They traded away their depth.
Can
for
Lillard stay healthy? He's a small guard in his early to mid 30s. Like, this is when those guys start breaking down. There's going to be a lot of look. And I'll sorry to interrupt you here, but
no, you're good.
The Bucks. Why are they going to care about the regular season? They went so hard last year, won 58 games. They saw what happened in the playoffs. They died. They were injured. They were banged up. They're not going to give a single crap about the regular season. I like the Bucks as a title bet. I don't hate that because I think a new coach coming in, I think it freshens things up. Damian Lillard, like, okay, it's not as stale anymore. Budenholzer, it got very stale very fast. I don't think Budenholzer is a bad coach by any means. He won a title. You can't say that. But I just think it got stale, and sometimes you got to change it up in sports. And they're just not going to care about the regular season. I 100% agree with you here. I'm not going to bet it. I don't like betting against Giannis and Antetokounmpo, but give me the under 53.5.
I think you're spot on with what happened in the playoffs last year. Here's my thing. Brook Lopez is 35 this year. That drop-off is coming. You can tell me he was Defensive Player of the Year candidate, blah, blah, blah. Sure, the numbers were great. He had Giannis and Drew Holiday in front of him. He didn't have to do anything. He should have stand there and protect the rim. He wasn't getting stretched out that much. I just think that drop-off for him is coming. They can't rely on him to put up 15, 20 a game anymore. And they're going to need time to figure it out with Damian Lillard. It's not going to be an instant fit. It's not going to be an instant click, and especially on defense.
I think Giannis takes up a bigger defensive role now, and then Lillard takes up, covers up some of his offensive game to cover up for that. But do you think it's going to be a fun team to watch in Milwaukee? Because I never had fun watching the Bucks in the past, other than when like Giannis would really take over in those playoff games. But watching the Milwaukee Bucks on a Wednesday night on ESPN doesn't excite me. I don't have a lot of fun watching them. Do you think it'll be fun watching with Lillard? I think in the beginning it's interesting, but I don't know if it's a fun watch. I think it's still going to be take your turn, slow grind, and then Lillard iso ball.
I think it's going to be 10 times more fun to watch than they were with Drew Holiday.
Does that say a lot?
I think it does. I think I'm going to be excited to watch it because that Dame Giannis pick and roll, he can pull it from 40 feet. He can throw a lob to Giannis.
That's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be a lot better than it was. I don't think they're going to be like a team that I'm dying to watch on League Pass every single night. But, when they're on national TV, I'm not going to moan and groan like I did last year.
Yeah.
I think that's my answer.
Yeah, especially in the beginning because you're just so curious to see how this works out. And there's so many teams like that. Yeah. That's how the NBA works every year. You're like, how is this guy going to work on this new team? And then it usually doesn't change your mind that much. Like, it's usually what we thought or worse. Other thing I want to mention before we move on, are these win totals really high to you this year? I feel like they're a lot higher than normal, like especially at the bottom where it's like, okay, we only have 2 teams in the 20s. Like, remember last year we were doing it? There were like 5 teams that their win total was like 23.5, 24.5, like the Jazz, the Thunder, and all those teams.
That is true. There were so many more teams in the 20s last year, and we don't see that at all this year.
Wembanyama?
Not even Wembanyama. It's just there were so many teams last year in the 50s as well. The Sixers were in the 50s. The Celtics were in the 50s. The Clippers were in the 50s. None of those, like the Sixers and the Clippers, they're in the mid-40s this year. Like, there's so many teams that are mid-40s, upper 40s that were like mid-50s last year. So I think that's kind of the trade-off. Like, the top is not as high as it was. But yeah, the NBA has a lot of parity this year. There's not going to be a lot of teams that are sitting at 15 wins.
Yeah, I think you're right there. All right, let's move on. Let's do Cleveland. Cleveland Cavaliers over under 50.5. Last season, 51-31. Basically bring back their same roster with Max Strus. Not really much change.
And George Niang Karter.
George Niang, yeah. He's gonna drop like 10 threes on the Hornets for no reason. I'm conflicted with this team because I think there's real drama brewing in Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell
Already.
I mean, it's been what's the number one thing you see when you scroll Twitter, when you go on message boards, you read reports, you read through the leaves, the tea leaves, you see the same thing. It's Donovan Mitchell does not want to be a Cleveland Cavalier. He was mad he got traded to Cleveland, and he's still always going to be plotting his way to New York. Is Donovan Mitchell slowly reaching James Harden, Kyrie level status here?
I'm not going to say that because he hasn't come out and said that publicly. It hasn't been a detriment to the Cavaliers. But he did in Utah. Okay, but that's one. He hasn't done it to the Cavs. He hasn't tried to baby his way to New York yet. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I can't put him on that level yet. because he competed with them last year. He did. He led them.
But what he did with the Jazz was disgusting. I mean, he genuinely quit on the court in the playoffs. I went to those playoff games. He stopped. He was the worst defender in basketball in those playoffs. He was the worst defender because he didn't care. He just wanted the season to be over with so he could get out of Utah. And I'm not even a Jazz fan. Like, yeah, I live in Utah. I deal with Jazz fans. I actually kind of get annoyed with Jazz fans, but I'm kind of tired of Donovan Mitchell, man. I'm kind of tired of it, and I think he's going to be turning into a head case. I don't like Cleveland. I like all the other pieces outside of it. I love Mobley. I love Garland. I love Garland. Garland is so fun to watch. Like NBA casuals, they don't get to see the Cavs enough on national TV. Oh my gosh, Darius Garland is just so fun to watch.
I agree. I'm gonna jab you here, Carter. I'm gonna fight you here. Give me the over 50.5 for the Cavaliers. I think that Evan Mobley does take that next step. I think he has to extend his range and be at least serviceable from 18 feet and hit a corner three every now and then, because that's what killed him in the playoffs last year. Was him and Jared Allen. Teams figured it out. The Knicks figured it out, and they had two guys you didn't have to guard on offense. I think Isaac Okoro has to take that next step. He has to be able to hit that weak side three off a swing pass whenever Garland and Mitchell get in the paint. He has to be able to hit that corner three. I think Max Strus is a very underrated addition. I think they overpaid him. Sure, the contract's a little much, but you know what? This is kind of a joke. He's got that heat culture guy. He's been in games. He has been in big playoff games. That's somebody they can trust to close a game in certain scenarios. If they want to go small and play Mobley at the 5 and then put in Strus at the 3 and then maybe like an Okoro or somebody at the 4, they could do that. And I'm going over here, Carter, because I'm banking on Donovan Mitchell not being a drama queen this year, not trying to force his way out. I think if they don't live up to expectations this year, then sure, maybe next offseason. But he's coming up for an extension. And he's not going to want to have that drama queen label where it's like, oh, we can't trust him. I think he's going to put his head down, play hard this year. I think they're going to be good. I think these Cavs are going to be good. I think they're going to be mid-50s wins. I think fighting for a 2, 3, 4 seed.
With all that being said, I like the Cavs over here.
Really? I did not think you were going to say that.
I do. And you mentioned it. It's the Donovan Mitchell extension. I think he's going to play his butt off this year. I think he's going to really try hard. And this is a great regular season team. This is hey, they're going to come out and play hard every single night in the regular season and then choke in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to come up and they're going to be like the 2 or maybe even they're going to be like a 2-3 seed in the East in the playoffs. And they're going to be maybe even an underdog in the first round to, let's say the Bucks take off. The Bucks are like, we don't care about the regular season. Let's just make sure we're not in the play-in. Let's take the 6th seed. And then all of a sudden the Cavs get screwed playing the Bucks in the first round. Remember
or the Hawks.
Remember when the Bulls went hard that COVID year and then all of a sudden they're like, crap, we got to play Milwaukee first round? Really?
Yeah, they got destroyed.
Yeah, I feel like we could see a similar thing there. Mitchell's going to go all out. He's going to get that extension. I think he's going to try and get that all NBA so he can get that double nuclear mega max NBA contract. So I think he's going to play hard, go get that max. He's going to sign that deal, and then he's going to ask for his way out after next year when it all kind of crumbles down.
And that timeline of events, we've seen it more and more lately. Guys sign an extension, and then
because they want that extra money.
And then in their first year, they're like, "Get me out of here." That's so shady to sign an extension with a team and then instantly demand a trade.
That's why I'm kind of rooting against the Bucks this year. I don't like that. It's not okay. That's not okay. And then just the corny stuff. The Damian Lillard cornball of, oh yeah, I'm releasing my rap song, "Farewell to Portland." Shut up. Shut up. You signed the deal. And then he's asking for his way out and upset he didn't get to go to Miami and all this. You signed the contract. You had your chance to leave. You just wanted more money. You were the selfish one here. How do people not understand this? I understand player empowerment, but players should get their money, all this blah, blah, blah.
This is different.
This is different. You have the opportunity to get the situation you want for what, $20 million less? What is $20 million going to do for you in your life when you're making $250 already?
Well, that's the whole thing. Is you can't have your cake and eat it too. These guys, they want to choose where they go. They're getting a 27-foot wedding cake, but instead they're like, no, I want a 29-foot wedding cake. Yeah, well, that's the thing. They want to have this extra money they get from signing with the team they've been with, and then they want to force their way to one specific franchise out of 29. I think that's absurd. You can't do that. I'm all for player empowerment and them getting their money.
And also,
but man, you got to make a choice. Sacrifice.
That's why free agency exists.
Yeah. This whole forcing your way out to one single team, like Harden's doing it right now, it's disgusting. It's honestly gross.
Yeah, I'm curious to see in the future, like, whether they're just like, all right, like, we don't do 5-year deals anymore. We're just going to do 3-year deals.
Yeah, I think in the long run, it's going to come back around this cycle, and it's going to bite the players in the ass because it's going to be like, you know what? I can't trust you because this is what the last 5 superstars have done. I can't give you this long-term deal. I can't give you all this supermax money. You might just ask out because it's going to get to be too much, and something's going to have to give.
Does Ben Simmons ask for an ownership stake in the Nets this year?
Ben Simmons? I don't think
like,
so.
let's say he comes out, like, starts off the year super hot, like he's averaging near a triple double somehow to start the season. He's like, yeah, I think Jay-Z should give me his ownership stake.
Well, he can get in with Clutch Sports and go on Vegas in the NFL with Caleb Williams and LeBron. And just go ahead and join that group. So,
all right, let's move on. Indiana over under 38.5 last season, 35-47. Very fun team to watch last season. They are the sports gambling darlings of the preseason.
The analytic nerd guys, they're
analytic
all over the
nerds.
Pacers.
Yeah, the two teams in the East are, we'll get to it later, Charlotte and Indiana. I feel like that's what, like, consensus analytic nerds. Every single thing you see is like, you got to go over on these two teams. Yeah,
and I mean, my first thought was over on the Pacers because you know what? To start the offseason when these win totals came out after free agency, they were at 35.5. It got bet all the way up to 38.5 now. And I still lean the over here. I still lean over 38.5 for Indiana. Halliburton only played 56 games last year. I think Bruce Brown's a little overpaid, but money aside, he's going to be a great basketball fit with this team. And Benedict Mathurin, he can average 15, 16, 18 points a game. I think they have the weapons this year. I think Toppin's a good fit at the 4. Miles Turner seems like he's bought in. I think Miles Turner is finally out of every single trade rumor that we hear during the season. I don't think there's any distractions, and I think Halliburton, if he gets a full year under his belt this year, there's no way they're not at least 500. So I like the over here. I'm a little hesitant strictly because I've seen everybody and their mother on the over, and like that's one of the most popular plays I've seen is Pacers over. So that scares me a little bit. But after looking into it, looking at some of the numbers, I still lean over here, even with all that.
I'm going over here too. You mentioned every reason. I don't really need to reiterate it. They're just going to play hard. They're a good team. And, you know, it really does depend on Halliburton's health. I think you're right. Bruce Brown was overpaid. But, look, he's going to be a good team player. And he can, well, you know, a random night, he can go off randomly. Like we saw it when he was in Brooklyn. Like it was those, like, April games, whatever. It didn't matter as much.
They're playing him, like, center. Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, I think they're going to be fine. I think 30 they feel like 40 42 or 40 44 39, but I'm not going to bet it, but I'm going to pick the over here with you as well.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. I think Halliburton's going to be a really fun player to watch this year, and this is going to be a classic League Pass team where it's like, okay, did you see what Halliburton just threw the Obi Toppin? He just did a windmill off the break. Like, it's going to be one of those fun teams we like watching.
Moving on, Chicago over under 37.5 last season, 40-42. The team that is in all-time no man's land. I mean, they are reaching Charlotte sports level territory of no man's land. It's getting bad there. I'll start off here, hard under. I'll always take the under on Chicago. And you saw a little bit of rumblings about Zach LaVine, what's going to happen there. The thing is, I don't know who would actually trade for Zach LaVine. Like, and what haul they would get back, whether it'd be worth it. Just go under. I don't like this team.
Yeah, I refuse to go over on this team and be wrong. I don't know why. They refuse to tear it down and rebuild. Their current roster construction, it's not great. They're not getting over the hump with this roster the way they constructed it. They tried. They got DeRozan, LaVine, Vucevic. They just signed him to an extension also, which, you know, what the hell?
Lonzo Ball, is he going to play basketball ever again?
Right, no, he's out for this whole year already. They tried, and they had a fun roster a couple of years ago. But you know what? It's time to pull the plug. They're not getting over the hump. They're not going to be competitive in the East with this roster. You got to look yourself in the mirror and tear it down. Genuinely, Carter, we could take our analysis of them from last year's preview show and copy and paste it into this, and it would be the exact same.
It's the exact same. Like, there's can Kobe White make the step up?
Oh, Caruso's going to be good on defense, but, you know, like there's no, I don't know. There's no hope, really. If you're a Bulls fan, you're going to get some cool highlights, but you're sitting in that middle land where it's like, okay, guys, let's have a clear direction of the team. This isn't going to work. Because if they keep this roster construction, they're going to be sitting at 35 wins, and they're going to make the play-in maybe.
As a franchise right now, let me ask you, would you rather be the Chicago Bulls or the Charlotte Hornets?
I think I'd rather be the Hornets, because at least they have Brandon Miller, who they just drafted, LaMelo, who's a real franchise guy who's really young. You know, they've got the re-signed P.J. Washington, Mark Williams, a legit young starting center. They've got a couple trade pieces. Hayward's expiring. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Hornets are in a better place than the Bulls this year. The Hornets are in a better place, and they have more of a direction than the Chicago Bulls. And I can't believe I'm saying that.
That's not saying much, though.
Yeah, true.
I would also go Charlotte Hornets, too, because at least Charlotte's going to be fun this year. They're going to be, like a couple years ago, everyone was like, oh, they're the League Pass team. They're going to be the League Pass team again this year. LaMelo, who knows with the Miles Bridges stuff, whether he's playing or not. But, LaMelo is going to be a highlight reel. Eric Collins himself, the commentator, is a highlight reel. Mark Williams, love him, but I don't want to. Charlotte's later. We can't talk Charlotte back.
I know.
Right now. Detroit, over under 27.5. Last season, they went 17-65. Cade Cunningham out for the year with a sketchy shin injury. I don't know what to make of this Detroit team. It's getting to a point where, we want to see you play. I know we're being impatient with kind of saying that because you're like, well, okay, Cade Cunningham had to miss most of last season. We got to kind of see it this year, though. I need to see him healthy, and I need to see him play the full season.
They really tried to get in the Wemby sweepstakes last year. They really tried, and they got screwed in the lottery. They got absolutely screwed. I'm going under here, Karter, under 27.5. I don't see it this year. You know what? All the reports out of Team USA minicamp said Cade Cunningham was giving it to guys. He was, playing super well in this minicamp, and I believe all that. I think he's going to have a great year. I don't see him playing well with Jaden Ivey. I don't see that pairing working out. I think he might be a little bit better of a pairing with Asar Thompson, but he's not going to be ready yet this year. There's too many mediocre big men. There's 12 guys that I could see being in the rotation. I don't know what they're going to do as far as that. They need to consolidate somehow. Bogdanovich is the most obvious trade deadline candidate to a contender. I mean, Cade's going to need some time to get back into it. The USA minicamp reports were strong, and I think he'll have a good year. But this conference is a lot better than people think it is. And you got to go under here. These bad teams with the low win totals, they're low for a reason. So I'm going under 27.5.
I think I'm going slight under here, too. I could see them winning 28 games. I won't bet it. But I also think a big part of this, too, is they have a coach who's not on the hot seat in any way. It's just hey, this is your year. Get acclimated. Get your guys. Figure out who your guys are. And then we'll solve it after next season. Because Monty Williams, he's going to be able to – he's going to have a long leash. They're not going to – even if he does go –
They just gave him a boatload of money.
Yeah, even if he does go 20-62 this year, it's not like they're going to fire him.
Right.
They're going to keep him around for another year because they know. The only thing I care about the Pistons this year is I want to see Cade Cunningham healthy, and I want to see him make a little bit of a jump. I think if you're a Pistons fan, that's the number one thing you care about this year. You're not like, okay, we need to make the play-in game. We need to do this. You're like, nope, I just want to see the rookies. I want to see Asar Thompson, see how he looks. I want to see Cade Cunningham make that next jump. I want to see Marvin Bagley play defense.
I want to see James.
That's not going to happen.
I want to see Bagley and James Wiseman. This is last chance you for them. I want to see what they do. In a full season of James Wiseman, we'll see. He might start. I don't know.
I think they kind of know on Bagley now.
Yeah, there's just too many moving parts with this team that I'm just like, who's going to be the rotation? Who's going to have the ball? I don't know. I'm going under. Plus, last thing here, I have a bet that I like in this one. I got Bogdanovich under 19.4 points a game for the season as a season average. I don't do many of these season averages. I don't see him getting a ton of shots anyways with Cade back and Ivy playing. Ivy loves to take shots. I think he's going to be traded midseason sooner rather than later, and he's not going to start for the new contender he goes to. So under 19.5 points per game. That's one of my favorite season-long bets.
All right, to review that real quick, we went both on the Bucks under, both went over on Cleveland, both went over on the Pacers, both went over on the Bulls, and both went under. Wait, I said over. Did I say under or over for the Bulls? It was under.
We're both under.
Both under on the Bulls, and then both under on the Pistons. And the division odds, obviously you're not looking at Chicago. Indiana's kind of a fun one. They're not going to win it, but plus 4,000, that's kind of a fun sprinkle. If you really believe, if you're an analytics guy and you really believe in this Pacers team, you're like,
and you're banking on Mitchell begging to leave Cleveland or an injury to Giannis or something.
Yeah, and the Bucks really taking off the regular season kind of thing. I was gonna say Cleveland, that's a fun division bet.
Yeah.
Plus 250 doesn't do it. If it was 4-1, I would probably consider it.
Yeah, it didn't really tickle me that much because I think the Bucks are going to be serviceable. They're going to be right with the Cavs.
Okay, Southeast Division, and then let's close up here. Any more bets in here in this division or no?
Bogdanovich season under was my favorite one. The only one I'll probably actually bet from this division is the Pacers over 38.5. I'm weary because everybody's on it, but I'm going to take it.
Okay, cool. Let's do Southeast Division. Let's start off with the Miami Heat, NBA runner-up last year. Over under 44.5 last season, 44-38. We all know what happened last year. They didn't get Dame Lillard, so they get to run it back with Tyler Hero, who how much does he really want to be a part of this team? If any coach can figure that out, it's Eric Spoelstra. So that's where I'm not like super concerned. A lot of people are talking about, they're going to have this chip on their shoulder, and Butler released that cringy video after Lillard went to Milwaukee. He's like, the Bucks need to be investigated for tampering. It's like, well, you were doing the exact same thing, so
right.
So I don't know. You start here.
Yeah. So I sat here and stared at this total for longer than many others.
And you hate the Heat.
I do. I'm out on the Heat. I have been for the last few years. Karter, I'm leaning over here. I'm leaning over 44.5. I think this number is just too low. Like, I get it. Their team got worse. They lost Max Strus. They lost Gabe Vincent. Struck out on Damian Lillard. I get it. Their team got worse. I will say this. I don't see Lowry having a good year this year. I think
someone left the toaster strudel in the toaster a little too long. I think we're cooked on there.
I think so too. I mean, I talked about it with Brook Lopez. Lowry's old enough now that the decline is going to happen. He can't be your starting point guard the whole year. But they have Jimmy Butler. They have Bam.
Jimmy Butler can play point guard.
Yeah, well, Bam, Tyler Hero, they're going to have the ball in their hands a lot. They're good for 45 wins. 45 wins is not a lot of wins. That's 4 games over 500. Look, the roster did get worse, but I think they're going to have another one of those no-name guys step up. It's going to be either Jamal Cain, Haywood Highsmith, Drew Smith, or Jaime Jaquez. One of those 4 guys is going to play 20 minutes a game. Nobody's going to know how. Nobody's going to know where they came from or how they're this good. Somebody's going to have to step up. Caleb Martin's got some playoff experience now. They're not as bad as people are making them out to be. I think they're good enough as a roster to not be great and still get 45 wins. I really do.
Shout out our guy, Adam Stanko. Jaime Jaquez is going to have a great year, isn't he?
I think he is, too. I really do. And Miami's the perfect situation for him.
Man, I don't know about this one just because I don't like this Heat roster. So there's two schools of thought here. So I feel like the Heat, it goes one way or the other, and we've seen over the last 4 years. They go hard in the regular season, and they're like the Titans when the Titans were the 1 seed in the AFC, and you're like, okay, but they're not going to win the Super Bowl. And the Heat, when they were the 1 seed, you're like, they're not going to win the finals. You know that. Or they're just like, we're going to play for the playoffs. I feel like it's one way or the other, and I feel like it's just flip-flopped each year. And I think this might just be a year where they're like, we're regular season champs, like we're going for it. So
yeah.
45 is not a lot for this team. The fact they went 44-38 last year and looked
had a
very
negative point
unimpressive.
Differential. Yeah, I like the over here, Karter.
It's not a bet. It's not put money on it for me. So, but slide over. I hate like lining up with you on this one, but slide over.
Trust me, it pains me to back the Heat and back Kyle Lowry, even though I don't think he's going to play that much. But, I've been out in the last couple of years. I do think this year they steamroll the regular season a little bit.
Okay, moving on. The Atlanta Hawks over under 41.5. John Collins no longer a Hawk. The trade finally happened. No, not even really a trade. Last season went 41-41. So Vegas is saying they're going to be the exact same team this year, maybe 1 win better. I'll let you start.
I'm in on Atlanta this year.
Yep.
I'm in on the Hawks. I think John Collins leaving was the worst kept secret in the league, and I think now that it's finally done, they can play DeAndre Hunter or Sadiq Bey at the 4, and they can stretch the floor a little bit more. No more John Collins shooting 5 threes a game at 25%. Capella's an actual center, rim-running center, rebounder, shot blocker. No more pairing him with John Collins. I think the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray experience, I think this is the year it kind of takes off. Because on paper, when it first happened, I was like, okay, this is a chance to work. DeJounte Murray, tough, hard-nosed, defensive-minded guard to pair with Trae Young, who's lacking a little bit on that end. I think this is the year it works, and if there's anybody that can get that to work, it's Quinn Snyder. You talked about before the show how you like him as one of the best coaches in the league this year. I think he gets it together this year. I think the Hawks get it together, and I think they're a win better than last year at least. So I'm going over 41.5, and I feel pretty good about this.
I don't hate a sprinkle on Quinn Snyder, Coach of the Year, like I said before the show. It's 20-1 on most books. You might be able to get it better somewhere else. I don't know. But, yeah, over. This team's going to be better. Quinn Snyder. It's Quinn Snyder coming. Quinn Snyder's proven every time that he can win in the regular season. He knows what it takes. And there's a reason he took the Atlanta job. He must believe in either the Murray or Trae Young. He's got to believe in something. And now the John Collins headache's out of there. I think if Quinn Snyder figures it out, and let's say they do go over like 42 and 40 or 42 and 40, that seems right. I know you're cutting it close there, and you don't like cutting it close with season-long win totals, but I am betting this. I like the Atlanta over 41.5. I also I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta finished with more wins than the Heat this year.
Yeah, I don't think that would shock me. If you're looking at division odds, I mean, I'm sure Atlanta's plus money. So if you're looking at the division and you don't believe in the Heat during the regular season, take Atlanta. They could easily beat the Heat in total in terms of
plus
total
220.
wins. Plus 220. I mean, that's plus money odds. You're getting 2-1. It doesn't really tickle me that much, but I think Atlanta's a pretty safe bet. I would rather bet them than the Heat as favorites.
Yeah, give me Atlanta over 41.5 though. I just think it's addition by subtraction this year. Give me Hawks over. I love them. I just want to see Trae Young not shoot a lot this year. I want to see him slow down on the usage rates. Let's share the ball a little more. You have guys that you can pass to that can hit shots, and I just want to see some of these guys step up and make that next step. Orlando, over under 37.5 last season, 34 and 48. Orlando, just a team with a bunch of guys that you like but don't know how they fit. So you're like, I love watching Cole Anthony. He'd be great to have on my team. You don't want him to start. You're like, oh, Jalen Suggs, he's a fun little piece, but does he do it for you?
Is he a shooting guard? Is he a point guard?
Yeah. Does he have a good enough jump shot to maintain himself in the league? You like Wendell Carter a lot, but he doesn't take you to that next level like some other guys. 37.5. I think this number's right on the money here. No, not favored each way. I could see either way. Maybe I might just go slight under.
Okay.
Slight under, but I don't like it. I don't like it. 38 wins feels right. 37. They're going to be in that. They're going to be in that Nets range. They're going to be hanging around with the Nets all season. So.
Okay. I don't hate that. I'm leaning over here for the third straight team in this division. I'm leaning over 37.5 for the Magic. I think Paolo and Franz are going to be ready to take that next step. They're going to shoulder more of the load. We saw Franz Wagner for Germany absolutely cook the United States and cook in that whole tournament. I think that's kind of underrated. He has been in that big moment on a world stage. I think he'll be ready to handle more of the load this year for the Magic. Year 2 Paolo, I think, is going to be pretty good. They have to figure out their backcourt rotation. You mentioned it. They have Fultz, they have Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, they drafted Anthony Black, they have Jet Howard. Who are they going to play? I think Fultz is legit. I think he's pretty good. Either Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs will be gone in the next 2 or 3 months. And you kind of mentioned it with the roster construction as well. It's like the island of misfit toys with the Orlando Magic. It's like, oh, wow, Jonathan Isaac, he's on that team still? Oh, wait a second, Wendell Carter's a pretty good piece. Oh, wait, where's Gary Harris? It's just these guys that are pretty serviceable guys. Their names but last year they were playing 11 to 12 guys a night.
And then now they're getting these other draft picks coming in, like Jet Howard and these cats. It's kind of like the Atlanta part where Atlanta started just picking up all these fun guys, and you're like, oh, these guys could be good eventually.
Yeah.
But they weren't given the time and minutes to really develop. And I'm worried about that in Orlando. I think it's a much better situation than it was with Atlanta because I like Paolo and Franz more than I liked Trae and John Collins, obviously. But I think it's kind of similar. I'm worried about that. I am gonna go slide over. I'm gonna do a little twist here. I think they're just good. They have talent, man. They have talent, and we saw with Markelle Fultz. When Markelle Fultz played, they were good.
And they played a lot of good teams last year close. They stuck into it. They stuck in a lot of games. And I think this is the year they really trimmed down the rotation. Like I said, last year, they were playing 10, 11, 12 guys a night. Some guys 5, 6, 7 minutes a night. You can't get in a rhythm like that. They've got to chop it down, refine it, get it to 9, maybe 10 guys rotation on a nightly basis, and really find an identity. And I think they will this year. And I think they're a prime candidate to kind of consolidate and be like, okay, here, you want Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs for, a better wing guy to bring off our bench? Okay, here you go. They're going to consolidate this year, and I think they're going over that total. I think they're ready to take that next step.
Charlotte.
Here we go, Carter. Here we go.
The Hornets. The no longer owned by Michael Jordan, majority owned by Michael Jordan. A lot of people are calling them the Jailblazers, the 2010 Wizards. A lot of jokes like that are being made about the Charlotte Hornets. Unfortunately, Kai Jones is no longer with the team anymore. I know, big loss. Rest in peace. Charlotte Hornets, over under 31.5. Last season, 27 and 55. Go ahead.
Last season was the season from hell. and they still had 27 wins. And you're telling me they're not going to be 5 wins better this year when they're returning 5 of the top 6 guys from a 43-win team 2 years ago? That just honestly, you know what that tells me? The bookmakers don't know ball. They don't know ball. And this is not even like, yes, my Charlotte Hornets fandom is contributing to this a little bit.
No.
But from an unbiased perspective,
you can't say that. You can't say that because we are unbiased about this because what was our number one bet last season?
We did hammer the under last year.
Under 38.5 wins was under 38, under 36.5, whatever you got it at. It was the freest money. We said that all offseason. We're like, God, this is the year. This is a year it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and so, well, you know what? The books didn't catch up last year. They were like, 43 wins the year before. Like, we'll make them a little bit worse. This year, Karter, they got it wrong. I think this number is completely wrong. Brandon Miller looks ready to contribute right away. I don't know if he'll start. People are like, Hayward's going to come off the bench.
I honestly don't want him to start.
I think him playing 20 to 25 minutes a game off the bench is perfect. I think Mark Williams is a legit defensive anchor. He's a lob threat for LaMelo. He's going to be good this year, another year under his belt. He's going to start the season off, whereas last year it was like the weird rotation of, is he going to get minutes here or he's going to play over Nick Richards, blah, blah, blah. This is his starting job this year from day one. PJ signed a new deal. He looks hungry. Hayward is going to have a healthy year. I'm manifesting that into existence. They were without a doubt, Karter, without a doubt, 5 wins better than last year. I don't care about the rest of the conference. All the parity in the league, sure, it's better. They're 5 wins better than last year. They just are.
They may have more arrests than playoff wins in the last, 7 years, but guess what? That doesn't matter. We're talking about this year. LaMelo Ball missed over half the season last year. Miles Bridges did not play last season. 2 years ago, that is over 45 points of production from those two alone. 45 points, and you're bringing those guys back, and you're saying they're not 5 wins better when they bring all those guys back. Last year, we were playing Bryce McGowans and guys like that in the last, half of the season. It was awful. Mark Williams is the key here, too. Mark Williams locks this down defensively. It helps so much. What's the number one thing as a Hornets fan that every night you went into, you're like, oh crap, we're playing a good center. What is Mason Plumlee going to do? What is X center going to? What is whatever center we were playing that night? What is Bismack Biyombo going to do against even a Jokic, even against a guy like Nurkic who's just stat padding against the Hornets? Every center was able to stat pad against the Hornets. That's not the case anymore. Mark Williams is a legit defensive 5. He's going to help out so much and bring stability to that defense. I have him defensive player of the year as a sprinkle. I think that's a very fun one. Yes, he's gonna. If you told me Mark Williams led the league in blocks this year, I wouldn't be surprised.
Really?
Yes, he was the highest college basketball blocks leader by like double.
Okay, I think that's a fair sprinkle. I think in 2 years he'll be a legit candidate.
The little inside basketball here, we're talking ball here. What happens? LaMelo. The guy always gets past him. He's going to lead him into Mark Williams. Mark Williams is just going to have so many opportunities at blocks. I am worried about him getting into foul trouble in those instances because he's going to have to cover up a lot of mistakes by LaMelo and Terry and those guys getting beat off the dribble. But I think it brings so much stability, and I think LaMelo is going to be awesome this year. He's finally healthy. He has to stay healthy. That's huge. That's a big piece of this. But even if Hayward's out, I'm not counting on Hayward to play 50, 60 games. I'm not. And he's on an expiring, and we might trade him. I'm just counting on LaMelo Ball to play that 60, 65 game mark. I think even by then, I think they're a 500 team.
That was my next point I was about to make is Hayward's on an expiring contract. He's going to want to play his way into another deal. It's obviously not going to be for as much money. Or another team, at least. Yeah, well, it's not going to be for as much money as this deal, but he's going to want to prove himself that he's still a viable option in this league. And you know what? Even if I don't think this will happen now. Depends on how the season goes. But you know what? He might be playing himself, like you said, to another team with the trade deadline. Like if it goes that way and the Hornets are like, you know what? We need to get rid of him in an expiring deal. He's been in a lot of mock trades. He's going to want to play his way to a contender. So I think he's going to be locked in. I think Terry Rozier is going to have a pretty good year. And like you said, the key is LaMelo's going to have a healthy year. He's back. If he plays 75 games, there's no way in hell they don't hit this win total. And I'm excited.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I'm so excited to watch Hornets basketball. I'm sitting here, I'm like looking at my calendar. I'm like, Hornets Hawks? That sounds awesome. Like my Wednesday night's secure. I mean, it's the opening night of NBA, and you're like, wanting to see all the new rookies. Wembanyama's going to be playing. You're going to have 3 screens up, switching through the free trial of League Pass. It's going to be awesome. Last point I had on the Hornets is they're going to be the number 1 TikTok team we've ever seen, with Miles Bridges dunks, with LaMelo Ball's passing and highlights. They're going to be on House of Highlights every night they play. Mr. Beast sponsors the team, so Mr. Beast is going to use their clips all the time, and it's just the most TikTok team of all time. They have cool uniforms. They may not be anywhere near a playoff win, but they're still going to be a fun watch and fun highlight team.
I think this is the year they're back to take their crown for the League Pass champions. They're back to take their crown as the team you have to look in the League Pass. Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, they were so exciting. We were having a ball. We were like, oh my God, 43 wins for this team. We were watching every game. It was awesome. Last year was a dumpster fire. If they can stay healthy this year, Karter, they have the pieces. I'm ready, and I've got some alternate bets I'm ready to fire off as well.
We'll be quick with the Wizards after this, but
okay.
It is really demoralizing being a Hornets fan outside, especially in a place like Utah where Jazz basketball runs the place, and everyone's like, "You're a Hornets fan?" It's almost like
they're a team.
Family, or a family member died. They're like, "I'm so sorry," and you're just like, "It's not but then I come in, I'm like, guys, this team's gonna compete for a play-in spot. No way, no shot. It's you don't watch Hornets basketball. I know this team. I watch this. I suffer every year. I know this.
Screw Utah. That's how it is in North Carolina. I go around and I'm like, I like watching the NBA, and they're like, who do you follow? And I'm like, the Hornets. They're like, ooh. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah.
You don't like Steph Curry and the Warriors? You don't like LeBron and the Lakers?
Yeah, how are you not a Lakers fan? No, but that reaction is what I get when I say I'm a Hornets fan. It's I'm sorry for
We're going to be good. We're going to be good.
I think so.
The tide's turning. The tide's turning. We can't have two horrifically dumpster fire franchises. They can't be both that bad.
No,
Panthers and Hornets can't be that bad.
I'm nervous,
My mental
Karter.
state, I've looked up therapists. We can't be having this.
My optimism levels are at an all-time high right now, my hype levels, and I'm just hoping I don't get hurt this year because everything's lining up for it to be a good year. Just criminally underrated. I'm using that word on purpose. Criminally underrated.
They are criminally underrated. But we're not even asking for a lot this year. We're just asking for a play-in.
Yeah, and guess what? 32 wins, I dare say, is free money.
Biggest lock.
I think, me too. Last year, the under was the biggest lock. Listen to us this year. Get the Hornets over.
Take the Hornets over. Every analytical guy is on it, too. Last one, Washington over under 24.5. Last season, 35-47. Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, Corey Kispert, Tyus Jones, Daniel Gafford, their starting 5. Doesn't really get you out of bed in the morning. They're going to be a team you're a fun prop team. A lot of Jordan Poole is going to be a great fantasy basketball guy if you play fantasy basketball. Other than that,
or just throw him into an alternate line parlay. It's all right, I'm going to do Jordan Poole 20-plus points for this leg.
Tonight's the Jordan Poole 30 burger.
Yeah. I'll keep this quick for the Wizards. I got under 24.5. They have 0 guys on this roster who know how to win. Someone has to be bad in this conference.
Tyus Jones knows how to win.
Okay, but Tyus Jones is your starting point guard. Don't love that. Playing 30 minutes a game.
I would be surprised if he's on the Wizards after this season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But like I said, somebody has to be bad in this conference. It's going to be this team. Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma as your top 2 might work in LA Fitness, not in a talented NBA league. Sorry. I don't see it this year for the Wizards. This is going to be a complete rebuilding bad year where guys put up empty stats on a bad team. And I'm going under. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think they don't even get 20.
You know what I get a little worried about with these low win totals is that I think at the beginning of the year they're it's this new thing, they're all bought in together through November and December, and the gas just fizzles by January, and all of a sudden All-Star break they're kind of weirdly okay, and then they lose 25 straight.
So the Jazz from last year.
Yeah, but the Jazz was on purpose. The Jazz were you guys need to lose games, and the Jazz were we can't. We're trying. We just physically can't lose games. I'm looking at the Eastern Conference standings last year. There was only one team that finished below 27 or 26 wins.
The
Pistons. One team, the Pistons, exactly, and the Hornets were second to last, and then it's 34 wins because someone has to be that bad. I'm not going to bet it. Just give me the Wizards under, like every
Yeah,
time
well,
you mentioned.
somebody has to be that bad, and I think the
it's gonna be
Western
the
Conference
Raptors.
this year. Well, this year the Western Conference is going to have those teams that are below 20 wins. I think more so than the East, but there are going to be a couple in the East, and the Wizards are 100% going to be bottom of the conference.
100%?
I feel good about that. I feel really good about that. I know we said that about the Jazz last year. There's no way in hell these Wizards are good.
If the Pistons aren't healthy, then they're not going over. Or they're going to be worse than the Wizards, I think.
Okay, fair. But I like the under still for this total.
Okay, just to recap, I'm going to run through this, so bear with me here. Celtics, both over. 76ers, both under. Knicks, Connor went over. I went under. Nets, Connor went under. I went over. Raptors, both went under. I'm betting that one. Are you?
Yes, and I'm going to take an alternate. I'm going to take an alternate total as well.
And then also on these other ones, just to make sure, because I didn't give you a chance. Celtics, any other ones I mentioned, are you betting? Celtics, I'm assuming?
Celtics are a lock, and I'm sprinkling the Pacers as well.
Okay, I haven't mentioned the Pacers quite yet, but let's keep moving. Bucks, both under. Cleveland, both over. Just stop me if you're betting it. Pacers, both over. You're betting it.
I'm betting you over.
Away. Okay. Bulls, both under. I'm betting this one.
I don't think I am.
I'm going to bet the Bulls under. Pistons, both under.
Nope.
Okay, I'm not betting either. Heat, both over. Hawks, both over.
I'm betting this one. I think the Hawks go over.
Magic, both over. Stay away from me.
Stay away.
And Hornets, mortal lock.
Okay, so here's I want to spout off some lines. First of all, if you want to sprinkle real quick, we talk about the Raptors under 24.5 plus 2,600. If you think it's going to be really bad. Here's the Hornets though. These are all the alternate lines I have for the Hornets. Over 31.5 at even odds. Over 34.5, so 35 wins plus 210. 40 wins plus 650. Sprinkle 45 wins plus 1,300. Make the playoffs.
Question.
Yeah.
So I actually want to. So 45 wins. I think 45 wins might win this division.
Well, that's the thing. So 45 wins is plus 1,300. Also, if you think that's going to hit, take the Hornets to win the division plus 3,500.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Hornets to win the division plus 3,500. I like that more than the 45 wins because I don't see a world where there are multiple 45-plus win teams in this division.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It'll be close, though, with the Hawks and the Heat. I mean, they'll all be right there.
Hornets over, though. Mortal lock.
Yeah, and last one, Hornets to make the playoffs plus 710. Hornets to make the play-in tournament plus 310.
I like the play-in one a lot.
Plus 310 to make the play-in tournament. I think that's a pretty good bet. They'll be 7-10 in the conference.
And then Wizards go ahead.
I have too much money on the Hornets futures. For anybody listening, don't be like me. Trust tree right here. This is by far and away the most money I've had on any team in the future since I've ever been betting. So this is a little terrifying, but I'm excited.
You know what's really sad? Kansas Jayhawks are my number one team I put the most money on ever. But this year, Kansas Jayhawks.
That looks pretty good, though.
Yeah, it does look pretty good. The Hornets last year were it, and then the Panthers this year were a slight third. On that list. So
me too.
We're gonna go 2-1 on those. So
yeah,
it works out. Anyhow, Wizards under. Neither of us are betting that. That's it for the Eastern Conference show. Tune in. It's all out right now, so you can just hit play on the Western Conference one too. So this is part 1, Eastern Conference. That's it. We're gonna move on Western Conference. Same exact thing. We'll do finals picks and even more stuff on that one. Thank you for listening. We'll see y'all on the Western Conference one. Take care. Bye bye.